Hey everyone, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I post DIYs, home decor, inspo, shop with me's, fun stuff like that. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how I took a little desk that I got on Facebook Marketplace for free and transformed it into this gorgeous vintage looking desk. And this desk is a wood veneer. So back when I was searching through Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, OfferUp, whatever, I originally set out to buy a solid wood piece. I was a solid wood snob. I thought that that was the only way to kind of repurpose a piece. It had to be solid wood because I have had very bad experiences with veneered furniture in the past. So then I saw this ad on Facebook Marketplace for this desk. It was $25. It was not specified if it was real wood or not, but I thought that it looked like it was real wood, and I love that it was at a garage sale because I hate, scheduling a time with someone and then if you don't like it, you waste both of your time, and usually it's far away. So I was stoked about the fact that it was a garage sale and I could just peruse, and if I didn't like it, I could leave it. So I went to this garage sale, and of course it was a wood veneered piece, and I said thanks but no thanks, trying to find solid wood. And the lady was like, listen, we're going to Salvation Army with all this stuff. We're moving, and in an hour all this stuff is going in the truck and going to Salvation Army, so you should just take it. And I was like, challenge accepted. So from that moment on, I was like, all right, we're gonna figure out how to repurpose a wood veneered piece safely so we don't scratch off the surface, and I'm gonna make it work. I definitely made a couple of mistakes along the way, so I'm gonna be showing you guys what not to do. It was definitely some trial and error, but I'm really happy with how it came out. It came out exactly how I wanted. I think it looks like one of those desks that you see online on McGee & Co. or One Kings Lane or Cherish for like $2,000 plus. I'm gonna show you guys how you can do this with any wood veneer piece or even a solid wood piece that you have laying around your house that might just need a refresh, or if you don't really maybe have the budget for new furniture. This is a really great way to, kind of just search on OfferUp, Craigslist, or whatever and easily repurpose a piece. I think this took me a total about like a day and a half, so it's definitely worth it. And then at the end of the video, I'm gonna show you guys how I styled my desk with some budget decor items. And I'm a big believer in not needing super expensive items and decor to make your home look and feel expensive. So I'm gonna show you guys kind of how I did that, and I think it'll be really fun. If you guys are ready, let's dive into the transformation. Okay, so here's what we are starting with, you guys. I'm not sure what they were thinking with these knobs. Maybe it was for a kid's room, but I really did like how the desk drawer rolled out. It's perfect for keeping my lighter for my candle, my pens, and my notes in there. But as you guys can see, a lot of the veneer at the top was kind of scratching off, and same thing on the sides, which was how I knew it was a wood veneer when I went to see it. Sometimes it can be kind of hard to tell, but usually you can tell from like the weight of the piece and how heavy it is. So the first thing I started doing was removing the little ugly knobs and getting rid of those. It felt good to get those out of there. So bye little multicolored knobbies. But I decided to get one of the really cheap plastic drop cloths because I wanted it to be really easy to change out, because I knew I was going to be getting gunk and stuff all over this, and I wanted to be able to like switch it out as I was working on the project. And I just went and I got some citrus strip from Home Depot. This is really going to help us get that top layer of dark stain off. And I feel like that's kind of been my issue in the past, is I've just relied on sanding and I end up wearing down the wood veneer and I go too far, and then it ends up looking bad and ruining the furniture. So that was kind of my intentions behind using the citrus strip, was that we would just use a chemical stripper instead of sanding. We still will do some sanding, but nothing too crazy. So I found that when you goop it on and make really thick layers, this works best. So citrus strip has to dry, and that's when it lifts everything up, and the longer it stays wet, the longer it works and is lifting the stain up from your piece. So you definitely want to do as thick of a layer as you can. I have seen some blog posts where people actually wrap it in saran wrap to really get the most out of one coat, and they leave it on there for as long as they can because the saran wrap prevents it from drying. But I didn't really have time for that, and I just kind of wanted to see what it would work with if I just did really thick coats. So that's what I ended up doing. About 1 jug of citrus strip was perfect for this project. It allowed me 2 coats, so I kind of just went back in the spaces that looked a little bit thinner than others to try to thicken my coats up a little bit more, and I let it dry dry for about 30 minutes. Something important too about this is you don't want to let it over dry because then it can just get stuck on there and you kind of have a problem. You definitely want to start scraping once it's pretty much dry. So this is really what it looked like once I decided to start scraping. There were a couple of wet spots left, but I didn't want to let it dry too much, especially since the sun was very intense this day and it was just drying really fast. So I tried to go with the grain of the wood. That way you don't have like any awkward scrape marks. And there were some parts that were harder to do that. As you guys can see, it got a lot of that stain off with just one coat. But like edges like this were hard to go with the grain just to get all of that off. But I want to make sure too not to apply too much pressure or else you will actually scrape the top of your wood. You just want to go clean and right against the wood, but not pressing too hard. This part was very satisfying, but very messy. As you guys can see, there's a lot of gunk coming off. So in between scrapes, I would wipe it down on my little drop cloth, and that just got to be very messy. By the end, I was just stepping in straight up goop. It was all over the place. So maybe if I was recommending something, you guys could have a little bucket or something to wipe all of your gook into, and it'll probably keep it a lot more clean. But this is what the second coat looked like before I started scraping or letting it dry. But my dog was begging me to play fetch, so I took a little fetch break while that coat dried. It dried for about 30 minutes or so, and then I came back and scraped that remaining citrus strip off. So once that was done, I realized I just had a huge mess all over the place and I couldn't even walk without stepping in gunk. So I decided to swap out my drop cloths, which just gave me a clean, fresh start. And then I took some denatured alcohol, and this is what's going to get the rest of all that gunk off, because it's hard to get it all off with just the scraper. But if you just take some steel wool, I took a very, very fine steel wool and just kind of rubbed it all to get all of that off within all of the areas. And then for me, it was kind of hard to get into the cracks and crevices, so I just took a little wire brush and that was able to get most of it out. And once that citrus strip residue had all been scrubbed off with the denatured alcohol, I just took a damp cloth and kind of wiped it down to clean my surface before sanding. So this is what it looked like all dried with the citrus strip and then the denatured alcohol scrub before sanding. So this was a pretty good starting point, but I just wanted to sand it to get all of those little uneven tones out of there and just kind of rough it up and have a good, base for our next step. But this was a 220 grit sandpaper, I believe. I think the key here to not going too far and scratching the veneer is just go very lightly. You still want to rough it up a bit. You can even go a bit finer on the sandpaper if you're worried about it. I did use a 220 grit, like I said, but you could even go a little bit higher to a 300. But I used a sanding block for some of these parts just because it was easier to get into the corners and stuff like that. I highly recommend. It's a lot easier on your hands than just using sandpaper alone if you don't have an electric sander. We actually do have an electric sander, but I just found this to be a little bit easier. So I went through, and after I sanded all of that, I just went in again with a damp towel to kind of get all of that sanding residue off there and all the sanding dust, just to kind of wipe it off and give ourselves a clean, fresh start for this next step, which in my personal opinion is the most fun. So next I just took some regular household bleach. I didn't dilute it at all, and I put it in an old food container so I can just throw it away right after, but I rubbed it on there with an old rag, and this is really what's going to get rid of that old yellowy orangey tone. I feel like in a lot of vintage and antique pieces, they have been weathered by the sun, so they really have lost that orange or yellow tone to them, and that's what really makes them look old and vintage. So we're just trying to get rid of all of that yellowy undertone that this wood has. I want it to look a bit more gray and weathered. So I repeated this process about 4 times. I wiped it on just as I was wiping, a countertop down with something. I would let it dry completely and then go in with more bleach and just repeat that until you kind of reach your desired look. Since this is a chemical reaction, you're going to judge it on a coat by coat basis till you've reached your desired color and tone. So this is kind of where I had it, where I thought I wanted it, and kind of where I made a mistake in. I just took this mini wax polymer polyacrylic and sealed it because I thought I was done. So once I had put this sealer on, I realized it made the wood a lot more dark and yellow. So I do not recommend using this product if you want to keep it kind of like gray and lighter. So once I thought I was done, I took it inside and I got these little knobs from Hobby Lobby. They were $4.99 each, but I got them at 50% off. So $2.50 per knob, which I thought was really good. I just really hated this twine wrapped around there. I thought it looked cheap. So I decided to just take it off of there and reveal the really pretty faux aged vintage look of these poles. They have like a really pretty patina on them, and I thought that that was really good for $2.50. They were like the perfect size and they look very authentic, and I love the look of them. So I decided to install those, and this is when I thought I was done. And then after sleeping on it and looking at it compared to my floor, I just thought it was too yellow. The camera isn't really picking up on how yellow it actually was in real life. So I started back up again with the sanding. So like I've said before, you guys, you just don't want to go too hard with the sanding because that really will damage wood veneer if you are dealing with a wood veneer. Obviously, if you're dealing with solid wood, you can sand as hard as you want, but I'm just using a really fine sandpaper. Our goal here is to just kind of rough up the surface again and get that layer of sealer off. Luckily, I didn't layer too thick of a sealer on there, so it was pretty easy to just kind of rough it up, but I did have to be careful not to, go too hard and ruin the veneer. So you guys can see I was kind of dealing with some uneven ground here, so it was a little bit shaky, but overall getting that coat of sealer off wasn't too bad, and I'm really glad in the end that I decided to keep going with exactly how I wanted it to look. So after that, I just kind of wiped it down with a damp rag again, and we went back in with some bleach. So this time I did about 3 more coats because I really did want it to get a lot more toned down, get that yellowy tone out of there, and look a lot more gray than it was. So as you guys can see, in between coats, it does start getting a lot more gray and weathered looking. So I did do 3 coats and let it dry for about an hour in between each coat this time, and I feel like that really made a difference. So this time I decided to seal with a wax, and we had a much better result. So I actually got it in 2 colors. I got a white and a clear, and I didn't want it to be too whitewashed looking, and I also didn't want it to just kind of yellow it and darken it like we had last time. So I decided to do a mix of the 2. So it was a little bit, lighter and brighter, but it still just had that like clear look at the same time, and it wasn't too whitewashed. And I really love how this came out. I have never sealed anything with a wax before, and I honestly really liked it. You just paint it on and wipe it off, and that is supposedly supposed to seal it. So I did end up cleaning the top once I had sealed it with just a mild cleaner, just so it felt not so waxy when I was using my desk and stuff, but it ended up turning out really well. I love that like whitewash mixed with the clear. I think that it came out really nice. It ended up looking like it aged it even more, but without having that extreme whitewashed look that I was definitely not going for. So yes, overall very happy with these waxes. I will link them below just so you guys know you are supposed to use a specific wax brush with this product. I did not do that, and it still turned out fine, but just so you know, you are supposed to do that. So after this, I brought it inside, I reinstalled the hardware, and I really feel like it was worth the extra half day to get this desk to the tone and color that I wanted. I love that weathered look, and I think that this is just exactly what I was going for. Beautifully aged, very vintage looking, and because we were going for that old age look, it made the nicks and the veneer look totally natural and normal, and like they fit right in and gave this piece character. So to style the desk, I brought in some lavender that I put in an old antique pot that I got from an antique mall, and I just love having fresh herbs at my desk because when the sun hits it, it smells so nice. So like rosemary or lavender is really calming when you're working, And there's just something nice about having fresh live plants that make you happy. So I always like to place candles on my desk as well. And this one is one of my favorites right now, salted coconut and mahogany. And it is actually from Walmart. So this is what it looks like with the labels on it. And I have several of these. So this is what it looks like with the labels off. And I think that it's just such a cute little addition. It smells so good. I love that it's neutral. And then I paired it with this little mini fern. I love groups of 3 when styling. I think groups of 3 are always very aesthetically pleasing, especially when they all vary in height and size. And then to add a bit of a focal point, I just popped this landscape photo that looks like a vintage painting, but I actually got it from Hobby Lobby. It was on clearance for $10. And I love the muted green tones that play off the plants, and then the brown tones in the frame that play off of the aged pot. Kind of ties everything together really nicely. And then next, to add some height, I just got some coffee table books with my homebody book and travel home. I love this travel home book because I feel like it's super aesthetically pleasing and it's actually pretty inexpensive. I will link it below, but it's all about, inspiring your design and your decor from your journeys and bringing that to your home, which is really cool. Has some really pretty pictures in there, and it's just a fun, inspiring book, and not to mention super aesthetically pleasing. And next, I incorporated this Studio McGee lamp from Target. I love the look of this lamp. It's been all around my home lately, and I think it has found a permanent spot here on my desk. I love the shape of it and how the circular lines juxtapose the straight right angles of the books. And I just think that it looks a lot more designer than, plopping a regular desk lamp there, in my opinion. And next, just to give a more finished look to my planter, I took this piece of poster board, kind of cut it into this shape so it fit around my little tree here, and we're just gonna fill it with some moss. I feel like this gives it a lot more of a finished, expensive look, but I actually got this moss for like $3 a bag from Walmart, and I think it looks super realistic. So it took me about 3 bags for the surface that I had, and I kind of broke it up into pieces so it looked a little bit more natural, and just filled that in right there. And then obviously no desk space is complete without a little wastebasket. I love this one from Target. It's only $20. It has a super functional plastic liner in it, so it's really easy to empty out. And I actually have this in my guest bathroom as well. I just love the look of it, so I had to buy another one. But I found this chair for $99 at HomeGoods, and it actually is a dupe for a $600 Pottery Barn chair. So I was so excited that I was able to find that. It's really comfortable, and this is the final look, you guys. I'm so happy with how this little bay window corner came out. I feel like it really just goes to show that you don't need a lot of money to truly just transform a space and have it look cozy and expensive, even though you didn't spend a lot of money on it. All right, you guys, so that about wraps up this video. I hope this gave you some inspiration to go out there and find a cheap furniture piece and how to flip it to make it look like it's super expensive, or maybe you have some furniture pieces that you can do this with in your own home. So hopefully you guys found this helpful, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up, and also be sure to subscribe for all my DIY, home decor, home shopping content. So thank you again. I know I say it in every video, but I'm seriously so appreciative of all of you. Thank you guys again so much, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!